What's up, guys? So today I want to talk a little bit about something that uh, I've been wanting to talk about for a while, but I've held off because I really, I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of people who are going to assume that I'm doing this for clout, for attention. So before I get into it, I want to remind people, those of you who probably don't never seen a video from me, you know, I've been doing this for 10 years. I've been talking about NASCAR video games. And I've never once asked anybody to like or subscribe to my videos. I don't monetize. This isn't something I do to make a living, and not that there's anything wrong with that. There's, but I'm just pointing that out so that you understand. Uh, I'm not somebody who is trying to get attention or promote myself because I've never done it, and I've been doing this for 10 years. My goal has always been to try to get the best possible NASCAR games possible, right? Because I'm passionate about this stuff. So, I want to talk a little bit about somebody who is really well known within this community. This isn't really a big community. This isn't like the Madden community or Call of Duty and these other games. NASCAR video games, that is part of a small community. In the big scheme of things, it's not a big market. So there's not a lot of us that are part of this community who talk about NASCAR video game development and everything surrounding it. But Radman is one of those people, and he is one of the better known people. So I want to talk a little bit about the criticism that he's been getting, and he's been getting it pretty steady for 5 months, right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about that and what I think. And before I do, I want people to understand that I believe that Radman actually has good intentions. I think that he wants the best possible games out there, just like the rest of us. I believe we're on the same team, but I do think that he is a bit conflicted and sort of he's trying to bounce between two worlds. And there's some issues there. And this is just my opinion. Take it with a grain of salt, but just being honest. And I've had a lot of people ask me, tell me things like, "Hey, did you see what he said about this and that?" And of course, I've seen it. And in fact, I was going to do a video about 5 months ago after he put out a video of his trip to Phoenix with Motorsport Games and the whole thing. But I stopped. I didn't do it because I felt like, you know what? I don't want to go there. This is what good is going to come from this? It's just going to be something controversial, or people are going to be like, hey, who's this guy nobody knows with his bullshit little channel, barely has 1,000 subscribers, who cares what he says? Because usually people are going to, somebody with 67,000 subscribers, I'm sure people will, they'll be like, hey, I didn't want to deal with it, and I was like, it's not worth it. But I did see things that were very disturbing to me. But then since that time, it's just been things here and there. Um, for those of you who don't know, Ryan Moody, let me show you here. He did a couple videos covering, uh, you know, Radman and some of his videos. And one of them, the one that started it was NASCAR Ignition 21 will fail without honest discussions. I do recommend people check out these videos so you understand the full context. I don't want to play the videos. I don't have permission, and it doesn't really matter. I just go check it out yourself, and you could get the full context. But really, what it was about was Ryan Moody, who is somebody well known in the Madden football gaming community, because he's doing kind of the same thing that some of us in the NASCAR community have been doing for a long time, just trying to push these developers to deliver better products instead of ripping off consumers. So I consider Ryan Moody, an extension of what we're doing as well. Also, Ryan Moody does have a history in NASCAR, direct in history He was actually on a race car team. I don't remember if it was an Xfinity team or a truck team, but he is very knowledgeable about NASCAR, and he knows a lot about NASCAR from the inside. So I respect a lot of what he talks about, and I kind of feel like I see eye to eye with him on a lot of things, and I watch a lot of his videos. And like I said, he mostly covers Madden football and that disaster. And so yes, so anyhow, when after NASCAR 21 Ignition came out and it was a big disaster and everybody knew about it, he covered it and he saw the disaster it was, but then he also noticed, a lot of what Radman was talking about, which I will get into. But he was kind of calling him out respectfully. To be honest with you, I didn't see anything wrong with what he said. He was just criticizing him. Nobody likes criticism. It's not fun to be criticized, but that's part of life. And if you are on social media and you're putting out your thoughts and your opinions, then you have to expect that people are going to disagree with you from time to time, and you may get criticized. Sometimes that criticism may not be valid. If somebody criticizes you and you don't think that that criticism is valid, then what you're supposed to do is to counteract or counter that argument with facts and with just have a discussion, and you let that person know and the community know why that opinion is not valid, and that's the way you should handle it. Now, it's not always cool. Sometimes people say things that are really disrespectful, things like that. I'm not saying you have to interact with everybody, but my point is that uh, what he was doing was simply criticizing, and he saw something here that I agree with 1,000%. Some of the things that Radman was talking about were just, I didn't agree with. So he talked about how this was not helpful to the community. So Radman came back on Twitter, and you could see here what he says. He didn't react well to it and didn't really counter the arguments. He just sort of, did what a lot of people do, which is just like dismiss people's arguments, but you never really counter their argument. Or, in either case, I'm just giving you a light refresher on what happened here. Nothing else really happened after that. Uh, that was over with. But I wanted to show that to you guys so that you see that I'm not the first person to actually criticize him, but a lot of people have been criticizing him, on social media. And since the release of that game, he has made several videos where he's come out and it's just weird. He has criticized the game. I want to make that clear. He has been critical, but he's also a lot of times like sort of he'll criticize the company and then he kind of pulls his punches and he kind of comes in and then he's defensive. But I'm not here to try to twist anybody's arm. You are free to think any way you want. I am 1,000%, freedom of speech guy. I don't like when people try to shut people down because they don't like what they said. To me, if you don't agree with someone, just you counter the argument. You make your point. And at some point, you go back and forth and then you just got to let it go because at the end of the day, you can't really force people to see things your way. I don't have a problem with defending certain aspects of the game and the company, but you got to be kind of careful because there is a point where it looks like you're shilling. And a lot of people are saying that he's shilling for this company. And I got to be honest, I kind of agree. It just really obvious. I'm gonna go back to the first video where I had serious problems, right? So I'm not gonna go into every little detail, but where is it? This is from 5 months ago, by the way. So okay, just bear with me for a second. Okay, here we go. Meeting Jeff Gordon, talking with Motorsport Games. I'm not gonna show you everything, but I'm gonna I don't know. Okay, wait a minute. Here we go with it. Okay, let's just a couple of things I want to
Jeff
share.
Faviano. I don't think their videos are up yet, but they will have videos up, and they recorded a lot of content throughout the weekend, so they probably have a lot of that. So just go check them out. I will tell you everything that I went through, and we will also talk about Motorsport Games, because I did spend a lot of time with them, and they were the ones that invited me, Eric, and Jeff out to Phoenix. So big appreciation to them. And
I want to make something else clear. I have no problem with these guys getting invited to Phoenix. Good for them. I'm happy for them. These are three big YouTubers within the NASCAR community, and more power to them. Okay, I want to make that clear. There's no problem with this. This is part of the perks of becoming a big time influencer. It don't matter what it is. It could be about makeup. It could be about anything. People who are on social media and are known as really well known uh, influencers with a large following, they get perks, right? And those perks aren't always direct. It's not always cashing a paycheck, but free trips, hanging out, schmoozing, getting to meet celebrities, hanging out with the CEO of particular companies. These are all things that are part of the package. And I don't begrudge that to anybody. So I don't have a problem with that. I want to make that clear.
it was actually really cool knowing that essentially, like, I got essential confirmation that, like, I can do and say like whatever I please, as long as I don't come off like a, like a jackass. But
That's when that was the first sign that I got that I was like, what? He has to tell you that the company that has to let him know, hey, you have freedom of speech. You could say what you want. We don't care. Why do they have to tell you that? That should never even be brought up. They should never even discuss anything that you may or may not say, because that's a given, right? You're supposed to be able to say what you want. So when they tell you, hey, we don't care what you say, feel free to say what you want. But even here, he says, as long as you don't come off as a douche or whatever, but that's open to interpretation. You could easily say, well, as long as we don't hate what you have to say about us. Not everything is direct, and I'll get into more of that, but this is kind of like a haha, feel free to say what you want. Why do you even have to tell somebody that? So this was the first red flag for me. It's weird that he has to point that out. I don't need permission for anybody, any video game developer, to tell me that I can say what I want about their product. I don't need their permission. And if they were to say that to me, I'd be like, no shit. I know I could say whatever I want. Why would you tell me that?
luckily, I can still be me when I talk about the game. So like, and that's something that was very important to me. And I
Well, it seems like he was worried. He was worried that they would have an expectation of him. Why would you even think that? But he's relieved that they said, hey, don't worry about us. You express yourself any way you want. So he's relieved about it. But that tells me that that was a concern in the back of your mind. Are these people going to make me sign some kind of non disclosure agreement? Or are they going to pressure me to say nice things? Here's the thing, and he's going to tell you at some point, and he did, about how no one told him what to say, but that's not how it works. I've been following politics all my life. What happens is, and this is what happens in the world of politics, nobody comes to you and says, I'm going to give you a check for $50,000 for your campaign, and this is what I want from you. Nobody's going to do that, because they're not going to put themselves out there like that. And it's never that direct. However, there's just an understanding that you don't have to say it. I give you a check for your campaign, and I give you a call after you're elected, and I say, hey, you know what? I need some help with some zoning laws. I want to build a couple of, you know, 20-story tall buildings in this community where, you know, it's not really allowed beyond a certain height, and I need some help with that. Is there anything you could do for me? Oh, let me see what I can do. I'll make some calls. That's how it works. It's never like, hey, here's this check and here's what I want you to do for me. That's not how it ever works. So they're not going to tell him you have to be nice to us. You have to say nice things. You can't say this. You can't. They're not going to do it. In fact, they did the opposite. They went out of their way to tell him, "Don't worry, you could speak freely, be yourself." You shouldn't have to say that.
I think I've gotten pretty good at being as critical as I can without spewing hate. I don't like doing that. So
That's another thing that I've noticed. Anything that he doesn't like or he feels is critical or extra critical, he calls it hate. He did this in another video. He called people who were criticizing him, okay, because people felt like, hey, why are you defending this company so much? They called him out. A lot of people were doing it. And it got to him to the point where he made a video. I couldn't find it. I looked for it. I don't know if he took it down, but addressing the haters, I think it was called, where he talked about the criticism he was getting. And instead of actually really focusing and addressing the criticism itself, the basis of it, he just said that the people were being haters, which is something that I find. I mean, I just turned 52 years old yesterday. I would cringe calling people haters. Like, to me, that's something 12-year-olds call people who say something they don't like. That's a dismissive way to just not address the issue and just say, what don't pay attention to what these people are saying about me. They're just haters. So he made a video about that. He claimed that people were just mad because he was living a good life, that people just don't want to see him happy. These are the things that really made me cringe. I'm like, what are you talking about? You know, you're used to, this is what happens when you have so many subscribers. You get used to people loving everything you say and do, but then when you start getting some criticism, it's like, whoa, you know, it's not fun being criticized. Okay, I get it. But you can't just come out and be like, well, anybody that says that's criticizing what I'm saying or what I'm doing, don't pay no mind to them. They're just haters. That's a juvenile way to dismiss people. But he put out videos saying that. He also called people that were overly critical, to him, overly critical of the game as being crybabies. He literally called people babies for complaining about a game that they paid money for. And those were the times where I was like, what the fuck is going on here? Why is he doing this? This is a guy that's always been, like a lot of the other people in the community, pointing out the obvious and fighting that good fight. Why is he all of a sudden being defensive for the company? And then the people that are criticizing the company, he's kind of defending those people and calling these people babies, the people criticizing the company. So people are not stupid. They saw that, they're critical, and his reaction to it was to just call people haters. He also brought up something about he referred to people as gas station attendants, and then later he kind of apologized. I mean, that's neither here nor there. It's not that big a deal. I don't want to crucify this guy. I don't want people to think that I'm just going after him for any particular reason. I'm just pointing out a few things that are very disturbing. And the reason it's important is because he is one of the big influencers of the NASCAR community. And what he says does carry weight. He's got a lot of subscribers, and it's important that the type of things that he's putting out there, it should be something he truly believes, right? Now, if he wants to say, I don't have a problem with Motorsport Games, and I think they're doing a good job, or even that he's criticizing them and saying, you know, I still believe in these guys. I don't see a problem. And you really want to put that out there and just be like, that's how I feel. I don't have a problem with that either. Like, I'll disagree with him 1,000%, but what are you going to do? That's his opinion, right? Uh, we all have a right to our opinion. So, but it's the way he defends the CEO, and he's defensive of these people. That's the line to me that he's crossing over, and there's something there that people are seeing through, and it is subjective. It is subjective. You're gonna find people that say, I don't see a problem with anything he said. I get it, but there's a lot of people who do have an issue with it. So I'm not gonna lie, that stuff makes me cringe. So let's just move on a little further.
I think I've gotten good at that, and just this weekend just gave a little confirmation that I can continue just being myself. If I don't like something from the game, I can easily say it,
So he got confirmation. You need confirmation from the game developer that you could say what you want about their shitty product.
It's not like we are on a like we're influenced in any way from Motorsport Games. Like, oh, we're gonna invite you guys out to Phoenix. We expect you to say nice things about the game. That's not really the case,
Just like I told you guys before, they don't give you a script. That's not how it works. They kill you with kindness. They take you to dinner, to lunch. They wine and dine you. They crack jokes. You get to hang out with the CEO. They introduce you to celebrities like Jeff Gordon. They kill you with kindness. They roll out the red carpet, and then they tell you, hey, by the way, don't worry about nothing. You say what you want. And then you're supposed... That's how... There's that human element where somebody's nice to you, they wined you, they dined you, they took you on a weekend trip, and then you're naturally not going to want to be as critical. You're human. But don't pretend that, people are dumb and say, well, they didn't tell me what to say. Of course not. This is what I mean by the world of politics. No, nothing is ever straightforward. There's a wink wink here. Oh, you go out to dinner, you meet celebrities, you're wining and dining, you're living the life, you are hobnobbing with wealthy people. And then when they pick up the phone and call you for a favor, you're going to feel compelled to do what they want. That's how it works. There's no script. That's what I found insulting.
It's a great trip out there to see everything that they're doing, which, by the way, their marketing team and their PR team is doing wonders, the activation stuff. And I know you guys don't see it, but there are like a lot of little kids that go up to the game. They don't have YouTube, so like they don't know any of this, and they play the game and they love it. And I saw it all. So I just want to stress that, like, yes, the game's broken and all that stuff. We know that, but there is another world out there where there's like kids who really don't understand any of this. Like, they're 6, they're 7, they're 5. All right, I saw it all the time, and they're having a whale of a time playing a game at the track. So
he admits that the game is broken, but he's also going out of his way to point out that 5-year-olds, 7-year-olds are having a good time at the track playing the game. They're 5, 7-year-old kids. They probably think that the bugs and glitches are fun. They're only playing the game for a very short period of time at the racetrack. You think they're paying attention to this stuff? These are kids. But that you bring this up as a valid argument as to there's two sides. This is the worst fucking NASCAR product ever. And I don't care what anyone says. It's not a debate for me. This is worse than NASCAR Heat Evolution. NASCAR Heat Evolution, say what you will, it was a playable, finished product. As bad as it was, this is worse. And it's not even a contest for me. And to bring this up, this is what I mean. He'll criticize them. He'll admit that the game is bad, but then there's a whole other world that nobody's paying attention to. 5 and 7 year olds are playing the game at the track, and it's important to bring that up. For what? 5 and 7 year old kids are not buying these fucking games. Some of their parents might be. They're clueless. But the majority of this community is made up of older people who have been dying and waiting for a decent NASCAR product for many years. And it's just year after year after year of disappointment. But you got to take time to make sure that you tell people how much fun these 5 year olds and these 7 year olds are having.
Just know that side of things too, you know. But we'll talk about Motorsport Games in a little bit later. I want to talk about the weekend in Phoenix.
Okay, let's skip ahead. I'm not going to show you the whole video, I promise. But
the ring ceremony will be in the.
You get to meet Jeff Gordon. Wonderful. I'm happy for you. And I don't begrudge this to anybody. This is amazing. I am glad that you got to experience this weekend. This is not anything that bothers me. But for you to think that you're not being influenced by this, nobody buys that. And when you're telling people that this has no bearing on anything you say, and then they watch you repeatedly talk about how cool and how funny and what a great guy that the CEO is, after pushing out this bonfire of a fucking game, and then you're upset when people criticize you. Not a good look.
Come have a beer with us. And out of that whole process, I was like,
Realtor.com makes looking for a house exceptionally easy.
Go to Realtor.com or download.
I'm not going to show the whole video, I promise.
This man said when, not even if. Anytime, I could always access my phone for extra information. So if I needed to figure out that we were seated right at turns 3 and 4. Fact that Homestead could be the final race again. For now, I think Phoenix actually them, had breakfast, had dinner with those guys. And I would say the most time I spent talking about NASCAR 21 was with DK, which DK is, I'm sorry I call him DK. Everyone called him DK, so I always call him DK now. DK is Dmitry Kozko, who is the CEO of Motorsport Games. He was at the track. He was there all weekend, and he's actually a really cool guy. Like, I've never really met a lot of CEOs, so I don't, I guess they probably live in a different world sometimes, but he's a really cool guy. Like, he's nice, he's really hilarious, he has a very good sense of humor. He was cracking jokes and making jokes all weekend. He was there the whole weekend. He was, he was helping at the activation.
I'm glad that the CEO of a company responsible for the worst NASCAR game ever made, that at that time was just nothing but a bug fest, that he can have a good time and crack jokes all weekend. And yeah, I'm glad. But clearly, Radman was enamored with this guy, CEO. He's getting to hang out with a guy that's worth over $80 million. So he's gaga. You could see it.
Stuff. He was listening to people. Whenever someone came up to him, he would listen to them. He was nice to them. He treated me and everyone else nicely. He was like himself. He didn't come off as fake, essentially, is what I'm trying to say. He came off as himself. He was a really good guy.
This is why he's effective, because he does come across as nice and like a down-to-earth guy, cracking jokes. And he's nice to everybody. Of course, you are an influencer. You are a useful tool for him. And I say that respectfully. I'm not trying to belittle Radman. As I said, the reason that this stuff bothers me and a lot of other people in the community is because he's one of the top guys that we're all in the same boat. We're all wanting better games, including Radman. I believe him. I know he wants the best possible game, but when you do stuff like this, man, it's not actually conducive to helping push that.
And that's who I spent most of the time talking to about the game. And guys, like the best way I could say what my talks with them, and Jeff and Eric will probably talk about their talks with them and stuff. We were all together too. I think Jeff and I will probably say something similar, is that DK, he's the CEO, he runs everything. So like I was really trying to get an idea of what he felt from the game and like how he felt about their launch.
As he said, he's the CEO, he runs everything. This is why people are so critical of him, because he's the top dog. That's the way it works. When you're at the top, the responsibility falls on your shoulders. So from the start of this launch, I was clear. I told people I was defending the actual people who sit there and crunch the numbers and the programming that actually work on the game. Those are the people I feel bad for, because they have to be they have to work under that kind of management. They never had a chance to succeed, to push out a product they could be proud of. So I've defended them. I'm not shitting over the entire company. There's a lot of decent people there. Okay? That guy, Rusty Walrus, he's doing the best he can. He probably feels like he's in a bad position. I don't blame any of those guys. They are doing what they can under the circumstances. But to constantly defend the CEO, and you just admitted he's responsible for this shit. Why are you constantly defending him and reminding people of what a cool guy he is? None of that matters. This is the worst NASCAR game ever released. And Radman made another video talking about how he's not as invested in these games like the rest of us. You know, that the days of him being upset about games was years ago, and now he's older and more mature, so he doesn't get that invested. He said that in other videos.
And essentially their whole motto right now, and I believe them, is they can't say anything, they have to show it, which is right. A lot of the jokes that were throughout the weekend was actually all the hate they were getting, and my God, like not just DK but the whole team, they get a ton of hate comments. And
whoop-de-fucking-do, that's part of the business. You create a shit product, you're gonna catch shit. And I'm not saying everything is acceptable. There's a line you don't fucking cross. But yeah, you're damn right the community's gonna fucking come after them. This game should never have been released. And he feels bad for these guys. He doesn't feel bad for the community. He feels bad for them at this moment.
To be fair, some of them deserved, some of them a little bit too much. Like we have people going on like very extreme lengths to make sure their messages were, you know, death threats were involved. So like that stuff is a little bit.
Death threats were involved. Look, I'm just speculating, but where are these death threats? I've never seen any of these death threats. I'm not saying they didn't exist, but I'd love to see some of these death threats that were issued. Death threats? There's some wackos out there, you know. It wouldn't surprise me if some people actually sent death threats, but really? You're making it sound like there was a ton of death threats that nobody's ever seen or heard of.
Too much. But they know. Okay, so like they know, and
I'm done with this video. If you want to see it in its entirety, you see the title here. You can go watch it. I just got to warn you, do not eat before you watch the video, because you're probably going to throw up. Now, this is the latest video, and this is when I just felt...
Let's change it up a little bit.
I was born to play.
This is like 5 months later, and still.
How's it going, guys? Happy Monday. Hopefully everyone is having a great day. I want to give a shout out to all the Patreon members for all... don't know what's been going on. This was going on basically all last week. There were rumors about Motorsport Games being in trouble. You could actually look at their stock price here. Now, let me be very clear. I'm not a stock market investor expert at all. My knowledge and my education on this kind of stuff is very little. I've never really spent time learning about it. So I just want to make it very clear that, I'm not an expert. I'm not, yeah. We're going to talk about a few rumors today. Let's just get the first one out of the way because this one was nonsense. Let me put it this way. There is now a time in the world where you can basically say anything you want. I mean, there are full-blown Twitter accounts making parodies of just saying dumb, made-up stuff, and people fall for it. Like, real journalists and celebrities fall for it. But yeah, this whole rumor about Motorsport Games making a wrestling game.
All right, that's a stupid rumor. I get it. But this is
involving NASCAR drivers. Like, seriously, my friend works at Motorsport Games. Great source, man. Like, I could say my friend works at the Miami Heat and Jimmy Butler is going. Main rumor, I'm going to leave Austin's video in the description if you haven't already seen it. You could go ahead and give it a watch. He goes into like a lot of detail about it, way more detail I could probably give you. But I did watch it, and I just want to point out, first of all, NFTs and crypto and all that stuff. Again, not an expert. I actually was kind of confused when I was like, can you make a video game a full NFT scheme? Like, I didn't even know if that was possible. But video games are, in that virtual world, so I guess. But yeah, it's that one was out there to say the least. But that's the main rumor, is that essentially Motorsport Games is running an NFT scheme with their games, or the games that they are making, and that
It's not a rumor. It's not a rumor. It came out of Dmitry Kosko's own mouth. He brought up NFTs, just like he brought up Ultimate Team during that first conference call. His mind is on monetization, microtransactions, NFT. To even mention NFTs to me, that's all I need to hear. I'm fucking done. I'm done with whoever this person is. He's the CEO of a company that's making NASCAR games, and you're talking to me about fucking Ultimate Team and NFTs? It's not a rumor. It came out of his mouth.
Essentially, I don't know how to say this, but essentially like a con, get people to invest, and then under-deliver, and then move on, which that essentially is the rumor. Again, if you want to go into much more detail about it, go watch Austin's video. He goes into detail. Spend your time, watch that. I'm just here to give my opinion on it and tell you guys what I think and what I know, which is, first of all, I don't really know much. I haven't talked to. I have contacts at Motorsport Games. You guys know that. I know Rusty. I know DK, the CEO, which is who Austin accuses of essentially, duping people. I haven't messaged DK. I haven't talked to him about any of this. Even if I sent him a message, I'm pretty sure he would just say this is not true. Like, I haven't even bothered with it because I know that's what he would say.
Yeah, of course he's gonna say it's not true. You think he's gonna divulge to you this is what I'm planning to do? He's already kind of blurted it out, but he's not gonna tell you. I know you think he's your friend. He's nice to you because you are an influencer. You have a big subscriber count. You have a lot of followers. By the way, this is quite an achievement. I just want to point that out. To get 67,000 subscribers, it's quite an achievement. And this is what gets to me a little bit, because I'm like, you are a serious influencer, whether you want to be or not. When you have this many people listening to you, and this is where these red flags really concern me, and it concerns a lot of people in the community.
I just want to point out that I have met DK and talked to DK many times. He's a really cool person. He's a likable guy. That's all I know. I don't get involved with his business decisions or anything like that, so I don't ask him about that kind of stuff. I'm just here because I want a good game, and I'm an influencer, so obviously I have influential power over the game, marketing the game and playing the game. And
that's right. So when you're spending more time talking about what a great guy that the CEO is, the CEO, the same person who's telling people about or investors. He's telling investors about NFTs and Ultimate Team and how to monetize and all these monetization opportunities. This is why it does matter. You say you don't really follow or care about the business side of things. I'm not an expert, but I can connect the dots. If you're going from like 30, 35 and plus dollars a share all the way down to like $1, that's a fucking bonfire. That is a disaster. You don't have to be an expert in Wall Street to understand that. Anybody can connect those dots. That's why the business side of things matter, because it's an insight into what the CEO wants to do.
Stuff like that. But I want to make it very, very clear, guys. I've never signed and what are they called? I've never signed a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA. I've never signed a contract. Never been paid by Motorsport Games. None of that. No.
Again, they're not going to be upfront. They're going to be nice to you. They're going to wine you, dine you, introduce you to Jeff Gordon. They're going to, you're going to get to hang out and pal around with the CEO. They're not going to just come out and say, hey, we're going to pay you this much money. We want you to say this, or we want you to defend us. The CEO told his investors in that first investor call after the disaster, after the release, that we have people giving positive buzz to the game or giving us positive buzz. Who the fuck do you think he was talking about? You can't connect those dots? This is where it becomes insulting to people. This is why people are being critical. This is why people are calling you a shill. I know it's not fun to get criticized, and I know that people are going to say I'm attacking, and I don't know how else to put it, but people can spot bullshit. You can't connect those dots? You don't get paid directly from Motorsport Games, but you monetize your channel. It's connected. It's never connected directly, but you do get paid for what you do as an influencer. They don't have to pay you directly. They don't have to give you a script to follow. That's not how it works. And the fact that you're telling people this stuff like, oh, hey, I don't get paid by them. There's nothing to see here. People aren't buying it. This is where the criticism is coming from. The reason I'm bringing this up is that it's important that one of our biggest influencers in this community understands what's happening, because it's actually not a good thing.
None of that has ever happened. I'm allowed to say whatever I want. You guys know that in the videos.
I'm allowed to say what I want. Allowed by who? No one should ever have to give you permission.
I could say the game's crap. I could say the game's good. They'll probably watching this video. I might get a text message or a message about it, but just want to let you guys know, completely individual.
Why would they send you a text message? Because these are subtle clues to just say that, hey, these people really are paying attention to what you have to say. You're going to act like there's no vested interest for them?
You know, I can say whatever I want. So that's why I'm saying.
That's why you got to keep telling everybody, I could say what I want. I could say what I want. They said I could say, they gave me permission. I could say what I want. They're not giving me a script. They're not paying me directly. I don't make money directly from Motorsport Games. Blah, blah. Why do you have to keep telling people that? Because there's something there. Where there's smoke, there's fire. What you should be doing is to look at what the criticism is and then determine what's valid, what isn't. And if what I'm talking about is not valid, then counter what I'm saying to you. You explain to me how what you're doing is not in any way directly helping this company. It's just...
With this situation, here's what I think about it. I don't find it weird that the stock price has gotten that low. I've seen.
You don't find it weird that it's almost $1 now?
seen companies open on the stock market and then obviously their price drops. I've never seen it to this extent, like a company go public and their price is at like $35 and then it drops to like, what is it now, like $1 or something? I've never seen that.
He's really struggling. You know, he'll say something and I could tell that he's kind of like, I got to walk it back a little bit because this is a little bit too far. It's kind of ridiculous. How are you going to tell people that there's nothing to see here? That you go from like $35 to $1 a share and it's like, it's business as usual. It's not really anything to be concerned about. You don't have to be an expert in the stock market to understand that this is a massive problem. This company is hemorrhaging financially.
That's obviously very bad. I would find it a little bit odd if the CEO of a company for the last 20 years was able to dupe people into investing and then dipping, and so he could live a lavish lifestyle. I would just find that weird. I don't find that believable. Well,
it happens. It happens all the time. You said it yourself. This guy's charming. He's funny. He's cracking jokes. He's such a wonderful guy. He has you bamboozled. This is why he's effective. This is why he's worth over $80 million. This is why he's become a CEO, failed at a company, moved on to something completely different, being CEO again. He got James Caan, a famous actor, to partner with him 11 years ago at some film company. Then he did some camera company, some kind of camera technology thing. This is why he's effective. Because he has the gift of gab. He's charming in some way. And that's how you network. And just by the gift of gab, you're able to network and get people to come on board, even though you've never made a video game in your life. And you bamboozled people to come along. So Grosjean and whoever else signs on, they don't fucking know. It's easy to get conned. It happens to people. This guy's worth over $80 million and nobody can actually point to something and say, this is why he's worth so much. It's all based on just the gift of gab, getting people to part with their money and investing in things because he's a good used car salesman. I'm going to stop short from saying that he's definitely a con artist. Maybe he's just lucky. Maybe he's just the type of guy that is always lucky at raising money and convincing people that whatever the next business venture is going to hit. But really, that is, in essence, the definition of a con artist. They get you to believe something that you shouldn't believe, and you're willing to part with your money because he just convinces you to do it.
Let me put it this way. This world is crazy, okay? I could see crazy stuff happening, especially in business. Everyone is out there to make money. I get it. I understand how the world works. But I would find...
I'm not sure you understand fully. And I say that respectfully, but there's no way that you're going to convince people that you're not compromised somehow with your relationships. You keep bringing up how great the CEO is and all these people at Motorsport Games. None of that matters. None of that excuses the garbage product. And you yourself have admitted it. You've criticized the company, but then you pull back and you got to remind people that 5 and 7-year-olds are having fun when they play the game and that the CEO is a great, wonderful guy. Why do you keep bringing that stuff up if it doesn't matter and the product is garbage? You shouldn't bring it up at all, but you do. So you're acting as a publicist. You may not think you are, but as an influencer, that's what you're doing. Why? And this is why people are critical. They're asking these questions. What are you doing?
Find it difficult to believe that you could dupe Fernando Alonso and dupe the Rob, what's his name? The guy that does, what was it called? The show on MTV. His name, he's an investor in Motorsport Games.
These people are no different than you or me or anybody else. Right? No matter how smart you are or may or may not be, anyone is capable of being conned if you're not careful. Fernando Alonso, how do you know? Do we know how smart he is, business-wise? He might know how to drive a race car. Doesn't mean that he can't be conned. It happens.
Dupe all these investors, and technically even
the very fact that so many people were investing in a company that never made video games, that they were able to raise that much money, that doesn't raise a red flag. They have no history of ever creating a single video game worth a damn. And they were able to raise that much money based on what? Obviously, this CEO has the gift of gab. You don't think that these investors feel like they got conned?
Dude, motorsport.com, because remember, Motorsport Games isn't just Motorsport Games. Motorsport Games,
all right, let's go forward.
Video games, the NFT schemes, and get a bunch of money, which they haven't done because the game isn't selling well. There's no microtransactions in the game. They're not making a lot of money. So obviously, if you wanted to make a lot of money, you would have to make a good game. And then
agreed. That's what I've been saying. If they focused on actually making a quality game, and get people to buy the game and the game sales go up, and then later they could say, hey, here's a couple ways we can monetize. That is the smart businessman, I guess. But at some point you're going to turn people off with NFTs and all this other garbage anyway. But the fact that they do talk about this stuff and you have a garbage product that isn't selling, and you still don't see a con, you still don't see people that are so inept that they shouldn't even be involved in making video games of any kind. But yet he's going to go on at some point to tell you that he still believes in this company.
And put like an ultimate team and a microtransaction stuff, and we haven't seen that. Now the whole part of listening to
you haven't seen it, but they've talked about it. It's in their plans.
The investor calls. There was an investor call where they talked about they don't have enough cash reserves to make it to the meetings. I've always said this, guys. I never pay attention to these investor calls.
That's the problem. I'm not saying these investor calls are going to give you everything, but they are telling. You can sort of get something out of them. And the fact that you don't see any value in paying any attention to them is probably partly the reason why you don't realize that people are probably getting conned out of their money. Does it sound like good business sense to invest in a company that never made video games and that already released the single worst NASCAR game ever made? And they're still talking about NFTs and Ultimate Team, and you don't see an issue with that? Didn't you take business classes in school of any kind? There's no red flags going off?
Anything they say in the investor call, the whole point of it is to please the investors, get more money in. I don't really pay attention to much of it. Obviously,
yeah, well, convincing investors to part with their money and give you their money by what? Bullshitting them. What are you going to do? Point to NASCAR 21 Ignition and say, here's our product. Go check it out. And you'll see why you should invest in us. Go look at the stock price, which is completely tanked. And you should still give us more money. Does that make good business sense?
Motorsport Games is not making a lot of profit because they still haven't made a lot of games. They've only made NASCAR 21 Ignition, which then, obviously flopped. They still have to make IndyCar. They still have to make NASCAR 22. They still have to make the BTCC game. And that's an important game. So there's a rumor out there that the BTCC game is that BTCC pulled out their licensing and that there won't be a game coming out. Now, if that is true, again, I don't know anything, but if that is true, the worry sign would be if a BTCC game never came out this year, because it was slated for 2022. So if that game doesn't come out, that's a bad sign, because at least one of the rumors were true.
There's a lot of rumors that are true. They're not all rumors. Okay, the fact that the stock price is where it is the biggest sign of all. And even Traxion, which is owned by Motorsport Games and never says a bad word about them, even they have put out a rumor that BTTC is either going to be delayed or pulled. So yes, technically it is kind of a rumor, but come on. But that's what it's going to take for him to finally see that there's a problem with this company.
But I'm still fully expecting NASCAR 22 to come out, and then I'm also fully expecting NASCAR and IndyCar not to pull their license. I don't see a reason why they would. Now,
you don't see why they would pull a license? Maybe they see the disaster of what this company has been so far. Maybe they paid attention to NASCAR 21 Ignition. That's not a good enough reason to pull the license? You don't see that.
Let's cover all our bases here. If this is true, okay, and
I know it looks like I'm really attacking, and I really don't want to. I honestly believe that he really wants to see a better NASCAR product. But the things that he's saying, it's like it just clashes with everything, and it doesn't make any sense.
And Motorsport Games, well, if it is true, I don't see how they make games. I think they would just go down, and then there wouldn't be an IndyCar game, there wouldn't be a NASCAR game, the main CEO and all those guys would get fired, and we'd move on, and that'd be it. I don't see that happening. Again, I'd have to see it to believe it, but let's just say it does happen. Then what would happen to the NASCAR license? Because that's what.
Looking for high quality stock footage with an ArtGrid stock footage subscription.
That's what I care about, and I want to see great games. And I also want to point out, I would be really, really sad for the IndyCar license and IndyCar fans too. I wouldn't classify myself as an IndyCar fan.
All right, let's look. I think I don't want to say anything else. I'm pretty much fucking done. This video has been way too long, but that's what I do. I want to reiterate, I don't have anything personal against Radman. I've watched his videos for years. I honestly believe that in his heart of hearts, he wants to see a decent NASCAR game. But he himself has said in past videos, he's not as invested as he used to be in getting upset about a bad product, which is fine. It's his prerogative. He's not obligated to agree with us. He's not obligated to hate the game or go on a rant. He's not obligated to do that. But he is wishy-washy with his opinion. Like, he will criticize the game. He'll admit how bad it is, but then he'll turn around and then he'll defend the company. He'll defend the CEO. He'll remind you about how awesome the guy is. And he's just back and forth. He's not picking a lane. And that's where people are like, what the fuck? And this is where the criticism is coming from. And I'm just going to end this off by saying the most valuable asset you have as a influencer is credibility. When you lose credibility, it's over. You don't have anything. So when he went on that trip to Phoenix, where he was just swept away with the whole, experience, he wasn't alone there. There were two other people there. Even bigger influencers than him who were part of that trip. I'm not going to mention who they are. He did, and out of respect to them, I'm not going to mention the names, but they were smart enough to not do what he's doing. They're not defending the company. They're not telling you what an awesome guy the CEO is. They're smart enough to know that their credibility is more valuable than anything they can get from Motorsport Games. And this guy doesn't understand that. He's harming his own brand. So I don't know what else to say. He's free to say what he wants, and I know there's going to be people to criticize and say, "Oh, you're just attacking, you're a hater." We get a lot of that bullshit in this community, but to me, the only people that just dismiss people like that are juvenile. This is you can see it for yourself. This is where a lot of the criticism's coming from. And I, for one, I'm not doing this coming from a bad place. I want to see, he is a very important, influential person in this very small community. This isn't good. And this is what Dmitry Kosko was telling his investors in that first conference call. We have people defending us. He's letting his investors know not to panic because don't worry, we got some, people doing that. Who do you think they were talking about? It's obvious. The other two guys that were at that trip, they knew to stay away, to just kind of, not say anything. They're smart enough to understand the value of their credibility. And as influencers in the social media space, that's everything. So they were smart enough to not do this. They know not to do this. This is why this is the only person in the entire community who's catching shit from people in the community, in comment sections, on Twitter, in social media, for over 5 months now. Because of this. You're not fooling anybody. This is only hurting you and your brand. So that's all I'm going to say about it. I didn't really think I would be doing this, but eventually, I've got a lot of people asking me about it, and that's my opinion on it. So it is what it is. I look forward to your comments. Let me know what you guys think. What do you agree or disagree with? Let me know. I look forward to your comments. Later.